865-457-3259. The Lanchette Morning Point, the Alzheimer's Center of Excellence in Clinton.
When you want to paint something quick and easy, spray paint can do the job. Hi, I'm Jody Henke. For the best results, prep the area first, then keep the spray can moving as you're living the country life.
Living the country life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country. You can find more information on today's topic and from previous shows by visiting us online at livingthecountrylife.com. We'll return to the show after these messages.
I'm Zach Johnson, a row crop farmer from Minnesota.
And I'm Mitchell Hora, a farmer in Iowa.
Agriculture has to feed a growing population, and many people want us to pull that off without messing up the environment. So how do we do that?
It's a good question, and we're going to uncover that and more on our new podcast called Fieldwork. Check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Go to fieldworktalk.org.
Have you heard of a good way to deter coyotes? What about a hay sleigh? Or how to get twice the light in your machine shed? These ideas were submitted to the All Around the Farm and Idea of the Month in Successful Farming magazine. If you have an idea for saving money, labor, or time that could offer a real solution to landowners, farmers, and ranchers, we'd like to hear it. Enter your quick fix or proven solution today at agriculture.com/idea entry. That's agriculture.com/idea entry.
Some old deck chairs that need updating, and I think spray painting them will be the best way to do it. Spray paint is easy to use, and you get a really nice finish if you do the prep work first and keep the can moving as you're spraying. Mark Wilgan is the director of small project paints for Rust-Oleum. He says some surfaces have a factory finish and the paint won't stick to it. Lightly scuff them with fine sandpaper to help the paint adhere. If the item has rust or loose paint, remove it with a wire brush or sandpaper before you spray it.
The second thing you want to think about is how smooth you want the finish to look. When a piece starts to rust, it can start getting very rough and textured. If you don't want that look to come through on your finished piece, you want to make sure to sand all that smooth with sandpaper before you prime it. And if something's rusting, it is very important to prime it with a good primer before you paint it. The primer will help neutralize that rust and prepare it so that it's ready to accept a top coat.
I know when I spray paint something, I usually end up with a lot of drips. Wilgan says the key is to start spraying the can off of the piece.
You don't want to start spraying a spray can right on whatever you're spray painting because that can lead to too heavy a buildup of the paint, which could lead to a drip or a run or something like that. So you actually want to start spraying the can off the piece and then move on to the piece. It's very important to keep the spray paint moving. You never want to stop in a certain spot because that's where you're going to get those runs and drips.
Another common issue with spray painting is what's called dry spray, which looks like pieces of sand on your project. Either you're spraying too far away or the droplets are ricocheting off of a flat surface and onto your project. Wilkins says you can avoid that by elevating the piece you're spraying. You'll find more spray painting tips at livingthecountrylife.com. I'll see you in the country.
Living the country life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country. You can find more information on today's topic, share your tips, and post photos by visiting us online at livingthecountrylife.com.
When you're shopping for food for your festive Christmas meals, you don't want to go all over town looking for the things you need. United Grocery Outlet says, shop us first for all the ingredients to make your Christmas table special. You know, word has it that Santa has been known to shop at UGO. He does have a lot of elves to feed, you know. United Grocery Outlet has all your holiday favorites: ham, turkey, delicious black Angus steaks, fresh fruits and vegetables, and everything you need for those Christmas cookies, pies, and cakes. So be sure and shop UGO first. You, Santa, and the family will be happy. UGO, with 38 locations, there's one near you. Quality food at great prices, and they guarantee you'll be 100% satisfied. United Grocery Outlet, online at myugo.com. Jump in my sleigh and let's go to UGO today.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Rome, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask your neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
Getting ready to get things kicked up and running here. David West stars and stories of the Cas Walker Show. Sammy Sawyer sitting in for David today. David had a doctor's appointment to go to, so he asked Sammy to come in, and we'll see what we're going to do. I think Rodney Dillard, Sammy's got Rodney going to call in. You know Rodney, he was at the fair this year with David and was one of the darlings on the Andy Griffith Show. So we'll get all that stuff up and running for you here in just a moment. 16 minutes after 10 o'clock, this is Wish. The Christmas shopping season is here, and the cold weather clothing season along with it. Hammer stores in East Tennessee are fully stocked with bargains for both. Save on ladies sleepwear by Relativity, Sherpa pullovers by Live Oak and others, Piccadilly career and casual separates, Chalet designer sportwear, cardigans from Treetop Labels, holiday party tunics and tunic dresses, and much more. Just in are men's Carhartt, premium casual, and work flannel shirts, men's and ladies classic style duck boots, men's merino wool blend boot socks by Carolina, 6-inch style hiking boots by Browning, men's dress shirts by Arrow, Van Helsing, and others, high quality quilted or Sherpa lined flannel shirt jackets, famous brand ski pants and ski jackets, ladies and men's flannel lounging pants, Dickies work shirts, and the list goes on and on. Don't forget that new rug shipments are always arriving at Hammers. You'll have to hurry to Hammers for these 2 seasons, Clinton, Caswell, and Hall. If you haven't been to Hammers, you should see us now. All right, guys, we're back here this morning. Sammy Sawyer sitting in for David. David is at a doctor's appointment?
He's at a doctor's appointment fixing to get some a procedure on a trigger finger, I think. So he told me...
You can't afford to have a trigger finger with the banjo.
Not if you're a banjo player. No, he's having a procedure done this morning, so you can keep him in your prayers. But he has... he'll be back picking here before long, I'm sure. But
bring his banjo and test him next week.
You need your fingers.
Yeah, that's right. How's everything going for you, Sam?
We're good. We're busy. We've been doing some stuff. Last month we did a couple things in Atlanta area. Had a fun time with went down and did a big corporate event for a truck. I don't forget what they call it, a fabrication type of place. Mm-hmm. And they brought me in and had some fun. Had a guy come up to me and was standing there, and I kept picking at him, and I was taking pictures with him with my gun on him, and they turned around and they told me, said, that's the county sheriff. I said, no.
Didn't know that.
No, I wouldn't have done that if I'd have known that was the sheriff, but had a great time. Then we did a church down there, a great church down there. It's called Rock Springs Church. We were down there. This is my 4th time being down there, but the first time I was down there was about probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's in Milner, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And they had, they were doing these things for the summer spectaculars, they called them. So each month they had some kind of special guest. And I think mine was September. But they had one month they had the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, wow.
The next month they had Oliver North.
Oh, wow.
And so I told him, I said, I see you line up here. Some don't match here. And so
one of these things.
We had a great time.
That's great, though.
Yeah, it was great. We had a great time. They're really, really nice people, hospitable people. But it's I don't even know what denomination they are, but we had a great time with them. And this past time, but we've been busy. Got a lot of stuff coming up next year. We'll have to talk about it a little bit.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to Rodney Dillard here in a little bit.
Rodney Dillard, actually, the last living of the Darlings, who we had here in September. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got some stuff we're going to talk to him about, and maybe play a song or two of his. And I've got a couple things I want to surprise him with. I've got a lady that I'll tell you about here in just a minute that a lot of people will know in the East Tennessee area that I'm actually going to try to get her hooked up with to talk to him at some point. But she and the Dillards were on an episode of the Don Knotts Variety Show back in 1971. Yeah, and Brad, if you're listening, or if you get this later, I've got to get with you and give you some money. But I need to get you to make me some copies of a DVD because you can't get these anywhere. But it's an hour long. It's a great show. It was Bob Newhart was a guest. Elaine Joyce.
I didn't know that he had a TV show.
He did for a short time. See, even Jim Neighbors had one. And a lot of those guys, they had these variety shows, but they didn't last very long because it's a.
Well, people expect them as the character that they were and developed on the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
And I would presume if you're doing a television variety show, he wasn't walking around acting like Barney Fife.
No, he had this episode I've got a copy of it's an hour-long episode, and it is fantastic. He does some, he's not doing Barney, but it's once you get kind of that persona, the Barney comes out in him a lot. And you'll see it's really good. He's the nervous character that he does.
Well, I remember him on, what was it?
Steve Allen.
No. Don Knotts. What was the name of that movie he played where he fell in the water and turned into a fish? The Fabulous Mr.
Incredible Mr. Olympic. Yeah.
I remember that movie as a kid. I loved that movie. That was such a great.
That was the first one he did. I know we say this every time, but when he left, the only reason he left was because Andy originally was going to do just 5 seasons. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was Don Knotts wanted a job, so he went ahead and signed with Universal Pictures and to make some movies. And so he did that. Of course, Andy decided to go ahead and keep going, but he made Incredible Mr. Olympic, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Yeah.
And I've lost count. I think there was it was over 10 characters from the Andy Griffith Show in The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. If you ever
really?
watch it. Yeah, there was several people that were on the Andy Griffith Show that's in it. And a lot of them were people that were just, had small parts. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny. You watch those. I watch. I think last time I was here, I was telling you about I watch a lot of Green Acres, Hogan's Heroes, and shows like that, and I watch them and I see these people from Mayberry,
and they're all.
Oh, it's so funny.
I guess they were just looking for work. Everybody was looking for work back then too. And go from whatever show to whatever show.
Yeah, it's funny seeing some of those people that's in Mayberry, and then you see them talking German on Hogan's Heroes. So it's kind of funny.
I guess that would be.
Yeah.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of old television or reruns. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't like to watch a movie twice. Very seldom. I learned to because of my children. They would find something they like and watch it. I can quote Lightning McQueen.
Oh yeah,
because they watched it 1,000 times.
Well, I tell you, of course, I'm partial to reruns.
Sure.
Because I study them. But I love those shows. They're just timeless to me. They were so
sure. It's one of those things that if it's on and I'm watching it, I sink into it.
Yeah.
But I don't cognizantly go and search it out. I loved growing up. I watched Hogan's Heroes I don't know if it's on every day. I don't know, but I watched it all the time.
You see the guy that
Captain
played
Clink.
Carter on that show. He was Gilly Walker. That was in Mayberry. He was the one that sped all the time. Goober kept saying, speed, speed, that's all you do. That was the guy that played Carter in Hogan's Heroes. It sure was. And speaking of keeping Mayberry alive, Ruby Hitch is listening.
Hey, Ruby.
She wanted me to tell you hello.
I haven't seen or spoken to Ruby in forever.
Her and John did such a great job of keeping Mayberry alive, and we love them to death. And I was telling her I had some buddies I was telling about John. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was doing a class here a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling Ruby about this. I said I'm in that class, and I walked in, and of course they had my name down as Roy. And so they said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Sammy Sawyer." And he looked up. He said, "Oh, yeah, that guy does Barney." And so the next day at class, he come in and he said, "Hey, I pulled up a video last night of you and a guy in orange pants and crazy suspenders, and he went by the name of Zero."
Zero.
And I said, "Yeah." And it was actually from a video we did in Montgomery, Alabama, at a big church down there, probably 12, 15 years ago. But
I don't know how many years it was, but John was on the station here for years and years and years with this show.
Mayberry Country Classics. We love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Fantastic.
I miss it. Saturday morning, I used to listen to it all the time and loved it. How they did it. I don't know how they did it, doing it in the basement like that.
How they did it at home and had it,
Ruby was a great editor.
Evidently.
She's good.
She must be. Must be, because their show is always spot on. It's great.
Yeah. But as far as people like the people that keeps Mayberry alive and stuff like that, I love those people that help and do that. And when Rodney gets on the phone here, I've got a story that I'm not sure how we can do that, but Ruby was telling me a good story about Rodney. We did a show with him up in Rutledge at Ritter Farms with Rodney and Doug. Probably in around 2006, 7, 8, something like that. And Ruby had a great story she's telling me about that.
After the television show with the Darlings, did the Dillards, did those guys tour as a group after that?
They did. I'm going to let Rodney tell you about that, because he was a big influence, and I don't want to jump the gun on it, but I'm going to tell you, I know next, I think it's June, Elton John's going to be here.
Yep.
The Dillards were an influence on Elton John. In fact, in 1972,
really,
they performed. Yes, and people see. I love these hidden treasures about this stuff. But yeah, they sure were. And I've got some stuff here. If it's okay with you, we'll ask Rodney about. But the Eagles, the Byrds, Elton John, a lot of people like that were influenced by the Dillards. And in fact, John Paul Jones with Led Zeppelin.
Really?
Rock fan. He started playing the mandolin because of the Dillards. And a lot of people don't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
There's some stories we cannot tell on the radio that I'd love for Rodney to share about them and the Rolling Stones. We'll go ahead and try to get him on the phone here in just a second if you want to.
Just whenever you're ready. Are we calling him? Is he calling us?
We're going to call him, or I can...
I'll take a break. We call him.
Okay, let's do that, and I'll get him on the air.
All right, we'll be right back.
It's that time of year again. At Sassy Pants Sweets and Treats, we are baking spirits bright this holiday season. Stop on in at 125 Randolph Road in Oak Ridge for cookies, cakes, pies, cheesecakes, cake pops, and more. Ask about our special on holiday cookie platters. Deadline for pre-orders is Saturday, December 21st. So call us today at 865-963-7357. Happy holidays, and we whisk you a Merry Christmas from all of us at Sassy Pants Sweets and Treats.
This is a busy time of year, and you've got all of those packages you have to send out. Take them to the mail center, etc. in Oak Ridge. They can ship your packages anywhere. And this is a prime time of year for porch pirates. You can rent a mailbox from the mail center to secure your valuables. Pick up some stocking stuffers. They sell greeting cards, promotional items, and lottery tickets. Sending packages has never been easier. Mail center, etc. 969 Oak Ridge Turnpike. 865-483-7494. Happy holidays from mail center, etc.
As a homeowner, I'm always looking for peace of mind, especially when I have a costly, unplanned expense, like a cooling system repair or replacement. That's when I turn to the eScore Quality Contractor Network. They're the pros who've been specially trained and approved by TVA and your local power company. The quality contractors are licensed and insured, so you can be assured the job will be done right and inspected for free. Contact your local power company or visit energyright.com to learn more.
Experience, reputation, results. 3 reasons you should trust the law firm of Fox and Farley. Too often, those who are injured on the job have difficulty receiving the compensation and benefits they're legally due. If you think you're a victim of an on-the-job accident or illness, call Fox and Farley now. The sooner that Fox and Farley is on your case, the sooner you'll receive the benefits you're due. Call 457-6440 today for a free consultation with the Fox and Farley legal team. 457-6440.
Morning, everybody. Here we are, David West, Stars and Stories of the Cas Walker Show. Sammy Sawyer sitting in for David today. Back in September, we had Rodney Dillard on the phone with us. They were getting ready to come down and make an appearance at the Tennessee Valley Fair, and Rodney's on the phone with us this morning. Hello, Rodney. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm above average.
Well, that's great. That makes one of us.
Yeah, it's a good morning. It is. We're having about 62 degrees here in my little hometown. And it's going to be a beautiful day.
Wow, well, enjoy it. I think we're about 35 right now. Maybe
it's cold here.
Yeah, it's a little chilly.
Yeah, I'm probably experiencing that. I'm coming in that direction next week, so I'll get to experience what you all get.
Bring your coat. Sammy's got some stories he was sharing with me. I'll let him share some of those with you this morning.
Hey, Rodney, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, probably more than I need to, Sammy.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for doing this. We had such a great time having you here back in September, and I'm hoping.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Everybody out there is so nice, and all the officers, and it was just really fun to meet everybody, and I really enjoyed that experience.
Well, I'm actually sitting in for David West today. This is really his time slot for a show that he does called The Stars and Stories of the Cas Walker Show. And so I was telling the folks about you going over to Ciderville and getting to eat, and maybe tell them about the dumplings. They was pretty good, wasn't they?
Oh, the dumplings are excellent, man. It was just everybody descends on that place, don't they?
They do.
They swarm when that food's served.
Yeah. Well, the thing about David is he's so hospitable and helps so many people, and it's a lot of people don't know what all David does for the community, but he counted it an honor, and so did the other guys as well that got to pick with you, and for when you were here.
Well, it gives me confidence to know people like David and you all out there that, we're still a strong country as long as we have people like that, doing good things for people. That never really gets publicized as much as all the negative, but it's reassuring to me to meet folks like that, really.
Well, and those people that are still Andy Griffith fans, there's so many people that, I know you, I don't think you get tired of hearing the praise about the Andy Griffith Show, but I know y'all was only in, 6 episodes?
Yeah, we were just what I would consider a small part at the time. We'd come in and do an episode when we had time. I think we did one a year there for a while, but I had no idea what effect back then that show would have and what our role had on the country. It's amazing to me as I look back, and it was a real blessing.
Yeah.
It was ordained.
Yeah, I know that. I don't know if you saw the Ken Burns special on PBS. Did you happen to watch that on the history of country music?
No, I've never had a chance to see that. I've heard people tell me about it. I don't know much about it, but maybe one of these days I'll get an opportunity to watch it.
Well, when you watch it, there's a special part they talk about the bluegrass and what an influence the Dillards had in the early 60s. They gave tribute to the Dillards on the Andy Griffith Show, or the Darlings, and also the Flat and Scruggs from the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
Yeah, and it was a great time. I know that I was telling Ron here just a minute ago. You're very modest, Rodney, about some of the things you've done, and that's what I like that about you. But when you were such an influence on some of the folks in the 60s and the 70s. Elton John's going to be here next June in concert, and he gave some credit to you as far as being an influence. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know he talked about me in his book, and I know this, that when we were playing a place in Hollywood, it was a place called the Troubadour. He came in to see us on the first show we did that called a set, and then he came back to see us again. The next thing I know, he invited us to tour with him when he came to the United States to do a major nation tour, and that's how I got acquainted with him and Bernie Taupin and those guys.
Wow, so did you guys actually go on the tour with him when he came over here?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he asked us to go on tour, and that's what we did.
Wow.
That's a great fit. I think of Elton John, I always think of the Dillards. Philadelphia Freedom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very gracious to us, and he would come out on the end of our set before he came out and sing Somebody Touched Me with us.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I showed you a copy of a DVD, and I'm still in the process. In fact, I'm close to getting your copy to you from the Don Knotts Variety Show. That was in 1971. And you was talking about that song, Somebody Touched Me. Y'all did that, and every one of those, even Don Knotts and Elaine Joyce, Bob Newhart, everybody came and joined you and sung that at the end of the show.
That was quite amazing. And then we did it with Judy Garland. She sang it with us. It just shows how God has his hand on situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got a surprise for you that I don't have her I can't put her on the air today, but I'm trying to make contact and get Mary Costa to I'm trying to get her hooked up, so maybe you can talk to her sometime here soon.
Well, that'd be great. She was so gracious and so professional and so concerned that she was legitimate when she performed with us. She didn't want to, sound. She wanted to sound right with the Dillards, and she really, she's a pro. Boy, she is really, and it's just so kind to us and sweet.
She's so accomplished as an operatic singer, and when she sang, was it Ebo Walker she sang with you?
She sure did. And when you I hadn't seen that show since we had done it, and I was just amazed by it all, and the thing Don Knotts and I did, that comedy bit.
Oh gosh, it's great.
You just kind of do what you do and you move on, but it was nice to have those memories back and what it was like working with those folks.
Well, the routine you're talking about, if folks haven't saw it, they need to see this routine. It's a routine where you're playing the harmonica and Don Knotts wants to play the harmonica, and Rodney, I mean, it's side splitting. It's very, very good.
Yeah, that was so much fun. We had so much fun doing that. Yeah. Don was so easy to work with, these guys. Of course, all the people from the Andy Griffith Show were. They seemed to leave their egos at home and just relied on their professionalism and their respect for each other. And that was a real blessing for us to walk into Hollywood, a bunch of guys from the Ozarks, and be introduced to that whole thing out there through the Andy Griffith Show, because the rest of the time out there with these shows, they weren't always that pleasant.
Yeah, I can imagine it. I know that for the folks that are listening, this is Rodney Dillard, the last living of the Darling Boys from the Andy Griffith Show. And tell them the story about the audition you told. It's a great story about when you auditioned for Andy Griffith to be on the show.
Okay, when we got out there, I'll try to make this, as brief as possible. Of course, we just walked into a place and started playing that night. That it was the big place where everybody went to. There's all these gatherings where everybody would see what was bubbling under the surface of what was next in these clubs. And this was called the Ash Grove, which is now the Comedy Store out there in Hollywood. And we just walked in like a bunch of kids and started picking our instruments right there in the foyer. And the guy owners come up and said, "You can't do that here." He said, "Do it on stage." And we did. And as a result of that, long story short, we ended up signing with Elektra Records, and the agency for the largest agency in the world. They also had the Andy Griffith Show and a lot of other shows. And anyway, they put a blurb in a Hollywood Variety. It says, "These weird-looking guys who play this really funny kind of music signed with Elektra Records." And Andy had a script with his crew there, and he read that Variety thing, and he knew what it was, and he invited us over to audition. So here we are. We traipsed over there to Desilu Studios, fresh into town, and of course seeing all that and all those, and of course everybody wanted to see what these new hillbillies looked like, and so there they were, a bunch of the stars of their shows. They were all just kind of peeking at us like we're a curiosity,
Yeah.
Most of us is saying, "Ain't they quaint?"
Quaint.
Yeah. We walked in there, and they were shooting an episode. And Andy stopped the episode right when they were shooting and came and sat down, he and the director, Bob Sweeney, and he said, "Show us what you got." So we just started playing right there in front of him, got probably halfway through it. Andy slapped his knees, got up and said, "That's it." And I turned to my brother and I said, "Well, I guess they're throwing us out." And he said, "Where you going? You got the job." So that's how we were only supposed to do one show.
Oh, wow.
It was called The Darlings Are Coming. And it ended up that Sheldon Leonard, when we did the second show, came by with a big packet of letters and dropped them on the table. And he said, Sheldon Leonard he talked like this. He said, each letter represents 150,000 people who responded to you being on the show. And he just walked off. And there's this whole bunch of letters. Big packets. And so therefore that just established us to do the shows when we could, because we were out there on the road doing a lot of touring. I did 32 concerts in 30 days we did one time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was and we were traveling as a package with the Ventures. You guys remember the Ventures?
Yeah, absolutely. Wipeout.
Noki and all those guys, yeah, we all toured together, and it's boy, we were really busting it. We just traveled all over and did those one concert a day, and they would open and we would go on, and it was just that was the beginning of a wonderful career that Andy had helped create. Of course, we went on to do other things, and we were doing all the folk shows and all the rock shows and all that stuff. We just kind of bounced around in there, being kind of at odds. Nobody knew where to put us. They didn't know how to sell at the agent. What are these guys? What do they do? Who are they? We can't, they're not like toothpaste where we can just put them on the shelf and sell them. So it was a fun time to watch the places we played. Places like the Hungry Eye, which was the mecca of where everyone played from. Everybody played the Hungry Eye in San Francisco. That was a big thing, and we did a month up there, 4 weeks in the same club.
Wow!
And just everybody played it. You name somebody, they played it. Peter, Paul, and Mary, Cosby, all those people, and so we got into a whole different thing than what Nashville was offering at the time. So therefore, it gave us an opportunity to reach other people that maybe weren't bluegrass fans and maybe weren't country fans, because we were just sort of an anomaly. We just sort of our own thing. And I guess that's what kept us going all these years, that and the Andy Griffith Show. But it's been a real blessing, and I've enjoyed myself more than I deserve.
Well, when you was talking about the other people you played with, I know even the Eagles and the Byrds, they all attributed, you being an influence on them. Did you know the story about John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin said he was influenced to play the mandolin because the Dillards?
Yeah, I saw that the other day on there, and we're of course, I've got an album that may be coming out. I can't talk about it much, but Don Henley's on there, and Ricky Skaggs and a bunch of folks, and they're talking about adding to it, and adding people like John Paul Jones and Mark Knopfler. I don't know how far that's going to go, but it's just been it's just really interesting. You do what you do. I take out the trash, I wash the dishes, I do everything, I clean up dog doo-doo, and I just live a life. There's nothing. I've been blessed with what I have, but I don't look at it. I look at it as a gift, not as something I deserve.
Yeah. Well, in a minute, I want to talk in a minute about your ministry and stuff. What you do. The songs most of the songs that y'all sang and played, they were originals. I mean, did Mitch write some of those, and you wrote some of them, or?
We're a songwriting team. We wrote over 40 songs together, and we were a songwriting team who fought like crazy over lyrics but we come up with stuff, But that's how it was done. We get in there and duke it out and write these songs together and fuss and come out with the tunes, and that's how we work together, and it seemed to work very well for us.
Well, I know music's a big part of it, Rodney, but I'm going to go back to the Andy Griffith Show just for a minute. The second episode y'all did was Mountain Wedding. And one of the favorite scenes of most Andy Griffith fans is when they're trying to go to sleep and y'all are snoring.
Yeah.
Tell the folks a little bit about how that was to tape that. And, I'm sure
we started to shoot the scene, and of course there we were, and every time we would snore, everybody would break up, start laughing. Andy, Barney, everybody. And pretty soon it got to the point where it was running late, and nobody could get the shot done. And finally, the assistant director said, "Okay, everybody, let's just do this. We're all professional. Let's do this and get this done." And he yelled action, and we started again, and then he broke out. So he said, "Okay, let's break for lunch." Get the break and come back and do the scene again. But it was fun. It was just fun to see the snoring affect these talented actors. Like I can make Andy Griffith laugh by breathing out of my nose.
That's a gift, Rodney.
Yeah, don't tell my wife that. I wear a CPAP.
Well, I know when you were here in town in Knoxville, and I'm hoping to get you back here pretty soon. I know I'll tell a little bit about something coming up next April that you're going to be in the area, but folks, they appreciate it so much. And Maggie was so sweet. Maggie Peterson that played Charlene. I know was your sister on television, but she is a sweetheart as well, isn't she?
She's a dear friend, yes, and we communicate constantly. We've never lost touch with each other, like Denver Pyle, too. Denver has been to my home here, and when I was working in a theater here with a fellow by the name of Jim Stafford, who had this theater here, and Denver Pyle came to visit me, and I brought him out on stage, and it was like Elvis was in the building.
Yeah.
That's great.
I can imagine. You was talking about
Denver was such a great guy. You know, I miss him.
Yeah. You was talking about Jim Stafford and some of those other people. Now, you played on some other shows. I know were you a part of Porter Wagner or something at one time, or?
No, Porter cut Dooley 3 or 4 times. He and Dolly.
Okay, that's what it was.
My wife was part of Buck Trent, who was with Porter. She was on the Buck Trent show up here in Branson. Buck Trent has a show up here, a theater.
Right, and for the folks that's listening, you're still living in Branson area, right?
I sure am. I'm looking out the window now over about 4 mountain ranges into Arkansas, over the lake.
Oh wow!
As I'm talking to you guys, and if I was ever claustrophobic, I'm not here. I'll tell you.
Well, I know a lot of people don't realize that. I know you was in the 6 episodes, and then you did the Return to Mayberry, but you were also in the Return of the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, I just was. We're cleaning out a shed, and I built a new barn so I could put stuff in there that I never look at. And got this old picture of me and Scruggs. Yes, Earl and I did some shows together. We traveled for a while, and I cut an album with him. And he asked me if I wanted to go out there and do this Beverly Hillbilly thing with him and John Hartford. So John and I said, yeah, we'd go along. And went out there, and that was an experience working with Buddy Ebsen and different, all the people there, and got to meet a lot of folks out there, and they got to hear Buddy Ebsen's stories about, he was a guitar player. He showed me a guitar that belonged to the, who was the guy who played Davy Crockett on television? I can't remember.
Fess Parker. Yeah. Fess Parker.
He said, I got this guitar from Fess Parker. But there's a lot of stories like that just, I don't know. I just seem to somehow just get to run into all these people and spend some time with them. And I look back and going, how did a kid from the Ozarks who grew up in a one-room schoolhouse and didn't have running water for a long time or electricity end up meeting all these influential folks and actually having a good time with them, and it's amazing. I look back and go, how'd this all happen?
Well,
what's going on here?
We know it's a God thing. You was talking about a guitar a minute ago. Now you honored us when you came over in September and you brought the guitar that you actually used on the show and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And that, that's so iconic. If somebody's out there, I don't know if you still got it for sale or not. Somebody got some money, they'd be getting a treasure, wouldn't they?
Well, it's down. Thank you for mentioning it. It's down in Nashville at Carter Guitars, which is they have Hank Williams guitar and a whole bunch of people. And the guy took it on and he said he'd want to sell it for me. So it's sitting down there in the shop now. Better than somebody complained than it was sitting in a museum, and it could sit in another couple of museums that are coming up that probably want it, but I don't think it should. I think it should be played.
Yeah. Well, you when you came over in September, I know, and by the way, let me thank Pilot Corporation and Madison Insurance Group for helping bring you all in here. The folks were so honored that you were here, and I've told this, and I mean this sincerely. You folks were just so gracious to sit and sign and meet and greet with those folks. And one of the favorite parts of it was people got to ask questions, and you did that question and answer, folks, with the audience. And I know you do that a lot of your shows and stuff, and people love that, Rodney. I'm not just saying that to you. You don't know what a blessing that is to people to get to talk to you or let you share some of your favorite things about the Andy Griffith Show.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. People sometimes you get the wrong, this is the problem with the society. You get the wrong information that's not true. And it's great to be able to have been there and actually tell some really true stories that really happened. It's hard to believe anything anymore because of the news media, but it's just great for these people to to get some real experience. And I enjoy talking to people like when we sign, because everyone has a story. And if you open your heart and your ears and listen, you can learn a lot from people who have dealt with life and their situations. And for some reason, they want to talk to me about it. And it's great because I learned so much from that. But you just have to get out of yourself and listen to other people to improve your own way in life.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you an example of how humble you are. And a friend of ours I was talking to yesterday, I don't know if you remember it or not, but probably about 12, 13, 14 years ago, you came up to a place called Ritter Farms here in Granger County, and you and Doug came. I greeted you as you pulled into the bus.
You mean the tomato place?
That's it. Yeah. Well, I want to tell you something that you did that, and you didn't do it for the accolades or anybody to know it, but there's a lady that's listening to the show right now that after the show, she was getting her stuff together. She was a part of our crew, or maybe a tribute crew, but she was getting our stuff together. And I don't know if you remember, it came a rain. It started raining, and you walked her to the car with an umbrella, and you were getting wet. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, it probably wasn't you then, Rodney. It was probably Doug.
It probably was, yeah. It could have been.
No.
But, Doug might have had a problem finding his way to the car.
No, that's not true.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're being humble about that, but you all were so nice, and she was telling me that story, and I said, well, I don't know if that sounds like Rodney or not, but let's give him credit for it. Anyway, hey, tell the folks a little bit.
I don't remember that, but I remember the tomato farm because I love tomatoes.
Yeah. Tell the folks a little bit about yours and Beverly's ministry y'all do, where you go into churches. And I'm going to try to work on, if you've got some dates you want me to help you with, I want to try to get you over in East Tennessee to some of these churches and do your ministry. Tell them a little bit about your ministry.
Well, what we do is, of course, the Andy Griffith Show has given us an opportunity to reach people that maybe normally wouldn't want to go to church, or just on the edge of wanting to go, and maybe just want to be out of curiosity, see what we had to say. So it's Mayberry values in today's world, how, the value system has become eroded due to all kinds of social media and all of that. And to hang on to those values and let people know that there's still a huge number of folks believe in those family values. And of course, they talk about his family, but they were Christian values on that show. Everything that was done as in the fruit of the Spirit, as Andy Taylor practiced. So we use that as a platform to just talk to people. I don't preach at them and poke at them and hit them over the head with the Bible, but I just wanted to let them know there's another way and an opportunity, if they so choose, with the freedom of choice that God gave us, through that. You don't find Jesus through the Andy Griffith Show, but it's nice to have something like this in these day and times to look at and find positive and get something out of that might lead you to want to get curious about the grace that God gave us through Jesus, and hopefully that we could reach people who maybe would turn in that direction.
That's great. I love the title of it, Mayberry Values in Today's World. And that's and if folks are if there's somebody, maybe a pastor or somebody that might be listening, if they ever call in or something, and if they can call myself, or if you've got a number or something you want me to pass it on to them. But if they're listening, I mean, you will come. I know when you're in the area and stuff like that, we need to try to schedule some of the churches in the area. They get a blessing out of you.
Well, they can call you because you're good at talking to folks, and I like to keep you a part of our life and our ministry, and keep you in the networking that God has created for us.
Well, you've been a blessing to a lot of folks. I know that I'm gonna let Ron, if he wants to ask you anything, but we've got something coming up in April that I think it's the first Saturday of April. I think it's April the 4th. That's going to be in this area. I know it's still about 3 or 4 months away, but they're going to call it Mayberry Comes to Maynardville, but it's Rodney Dillard, and it's going to be Rodney's band. You're bringing the whole band, aren't you, Rodney?
I'm bringing everybody I can. I would get the dog in the car, but it's a Mastiff, and he weighs 100 pounds.
But we're going to be at the Union County House.
Right in the front seat, and we argue about that.
Yeah. It's a show. It's at the Union County Opry. They're doing shows each month. They've had a great lineup of shows this year, but the gentleman booking all of that is I talked to him yesterday, and we're going to come up and try to help you a little bit, not get in your way, but we want to be a part and help get people interested in it. We're going to start trying to promote it for him too and help you with that.
You have to be there, Sammy.
Well, I'll be there and do as little or as much as you want, but I'm going to stay out of your way.
You're never in my way, I'll tell you. It's one of the things that I appreciate over the years is making friendships with people, that good people, and they have that spirit, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, but you're one of those folks, and I just appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you too. I know that East Tennessee loves Mayberry. They love the Darlings. They love Rodney and Beverly Dillard, and I'm hoping to get you back over there soon, because we've got so many people asking about you coming back next year, and I said, well, we'll check and see. I know he's got a heavy loading schedule, but when you're in this area, though, I do want to fix you up with and let you meet or maybe talk to Mary Costa, because she is such a treasure.
That'd be beautiful. Yeah, I'd look forward to that. Yeah, East Tennessee is becoming. Well, of course, as you know, my son is a captain in the sheriff's department in Sullivan County up in Tri-City.
Sure.
And he grew up to be Barney Fife. Don't tell him I said that.
Wouldn't answer Georgia. Yeah.
Rodney, what's the most when you guys were out and doing it? You're talking about the Ventures and Peter, Paul, and Mary, which it just don't sound like it fits. You guys being out with them. But what's the most unusual place when you guys were out doing that you can recall playing, and who with?
Unusual place. Well, let me see. Good golly, I did a rock and roll tour with. Back then, people who are our age would remember Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, the Birds. We all did this tour together and played these different places. But that was the most unusual for me, is being playing with all these rock guys,
Did the audience, obviously they enjoyed it, or they wouldn't have continued with you on the tour, but did the audience accept the music?
Yeah, because we were playing, I was starting to play a little bit. Wheat Straw Suite was sort of departure from traditional bluegrass.
Got it.
Which opened up just another whole audience for us. But I can remember playing, what was that big hall in Dallas, Kennedy Center? No, I can't remember what it was. Big place, thousands of people, and these screaming teenage people, you couldn't even hear yourself, and they would start throwing things at you.
Does that mean they like you?
Yeah.
Okay. Depends on what they're throwing, Sam.
That was Ron that asked that question. Now, Ron's a musician as well. He's a drummer, so he's an old rocker.
Yeah. They were throwing it. They'd throw it at everybody just because they were. And lipstick cases were hitting my new Gretsch guitar. I had to turn my back to the audience to play. But in a couple of places we played, the Hollywood Bowl, I think, was the big one, because we played for a fair housing thing, and I got attacked, my car, as we were pulling in by the Nazi party.
Oh wow.
And they were trying to turn my station wagon over. All the other guys went in the band when they got successful, and they brought Lincolns, and Doug and he bought a Volvo, and I bought a Ford Falcon station wagon.
Seems like
anyway, we were pulling in there, and they were trying to. And if it hadn't been for the police security there, they would have turned over my car. But that was fun.
What kind of
Joan Baez? I think we played the Hollywood Bowl with her, and then a couple other places. But those were unusual venues for me, and I think going to Japan and playing for those folks was pretty. It was really funny, because over there our humor wasn't going over very well, but they loved the music. But they would say things from Live Almost, with the funny stuff. They didn't know what they were saying, but they would repeat that. So finally, in order to get any humor out of it, I would introduce John Wayne.
Oh, wow.
And they'd go, and I'd say, and now, ladies and gentlemen, John Wayne. and I'd park to the station, to the stage, and then they'd get it. There was no John Wayne. But they knew John Wayne. But that was an interesting tour where the music was the communication without the humor. And that was an interesting experience.
I bet
playing a tour over there, and of course, the other places, England, and I got the tour with. I just saw a whole special on Carl Perkins, and Carl Perkins and I toured together for a month over there.
Oh wow!
On the same bus, and I got to know him real well. What a nice man he was, and of course, he told me that a little story about. He said he went over to visit the Beatles. He said they come over and picked him up and put him. I forgot whose house it was, Paul's or somebody. And he said he walked in the door and they started singing "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow."
How cool is that? The Beatles sing for you.
Yeah. And he would tell me some stories, and he'd say, you got to come on down here and I'm going to. Just set us a trout line on the Mississippi and we'll catch some catfish. But he was a great guy, and we had a great tour. We toured Great Britain for a month, from Scotland all the way down, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah. So I've had some really neat experience with these folks, and it's just been really neat. And the Andy Griffith Show has carried on my career. And golly, I can't believe that I'm starting to book up here for 21 already.
Wow,
that's good.
Yeah, so I'm on my Get Me While You Can, Last Man Standing tour.
That's fantastic. Well, next time you're here in East Tennessee, get Sammy to bring you by the station.
Oh, I'll do that. Sure, yeah. I got to bring you I got myself a new Dobro. For those folks who don't know what that is, it's that thing that looks like it got a hubcap in the middle of it. And R.Q. Jones, the guy who took over the company, sent me this beautiful Dobro, which I'm starting to play in the show again because I used to play it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But I'm back in playing it again, and he makes these beautiful Dobros that he gives a percent to the Parkinson's Foundation for Parkinson's disease.
Oh, cool.
And that appeals to me, so I'm helping him promote these because of that reason. He's a good Christian man, so he's out of Florida. But yeah, I'm excited about having a new instrument to get back into.
You'll have to bring it. Phil Ledbetter will show you how to play that Dobro, right?
Well, yeah, Phil's a great Dobro player. He's one of my favorites because he's got his own style and his own identity.
He's a great guy.
He's half of the new and half of the old, which is great, and he combines them. Yeah. What a great guy he is, too.
Hey, before we go, I know Mitch and Dean and Doug were such a big part of the Darlings and stuff, and I know that, of course, they've all passed, but I know Doug being your brother, but Mitch and Dean as well, they were kind of like family to you, weren't they?
Sure. My gosh, we spent a lot of time, years together. We all had our different philosophies about life and thing, and it was Dean was a great studier of the Mesopotamian history of how that connected with the Toltecs and Olmecs and those people down in Mexico. And he would study it. We were in the museum down in Mexico City one time doing a TV show, and he's standing in front of the Calendar Stone, and he started giving this lecture to me about the Calendar Stone and all the different things about that. And there was a professor with a group of people from the University of Texas, and he was leading his class, and next thing you know, he was over there with his class asking Dean questions.
Did they realize it was a darling?
Nobody nobody wears a sign that says they're a darling.
It's just the look, right?
We just look like it. They make the connections. Hey, you look like a darling. Well, guess what? But yeah, that was Dean, and Mitch, of course, was a writer in his own right, and he'd written a couple of books, Forest in the Wind, and another one which I can't remember. It's about an Osage Indian here in Missouri, and it was made into a movie for television on NBC, Movie of the Week.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he was quite a writer and very prolific in his stories and things. So everybody had their own talent. Of course, Douglas was doing a lot of sessions and stuff in L.A., a lot of movie stuff, playing banjo. And he was in the movie Popeye, with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And those guys. And, Doug had his own career, and I had mine. I was producing different records and doing different things and doing commercials and did a lot of stuff like that. So we all had our own things to do. But being the voice of the Dillards and actually just doing pretty much the arrangements and the music in that direction, which I wanted to take it, was pretty much me, and I'm still trying to do that at my age.
Well, you were in a movie with Bette Midler called The Rose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a good friend of ours, Doug and I, his name was Harry Dean Stanton, who was a big actor in L.A. People would see him and recognize who he was, but he was in a movie called Aliens, the first one.
Yeah.
He was the one wearing the Hawaiian shirt going, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty," in the movie.
Yes.
And he told me one day, he said, "Well, I'm going over to England to shoot this movie called Aliens. I don't know if it's going to be any good or not." He said, "Would you stay here and take care of my house?" And I said, "Okay." So he was gone for a month, and I took care of his house while he shot that. But I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just getting to reminisce like an old man here.
Oh, we're enjoying it.
Yeah, I don't want to wear you out, Muddy. I tell you what, I did have some officers tell me if I talk to you, to be sure and tell you hi. And one of them was Dumplings. He said you'd know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
He was your personal bodyguard at the...
Yeah, we were looking at his picture the other day, yeah.
Yeah,
Dumplings doing okay, I guess. I don't guess he wants everybody to know he's Dumpling, because I know how deputies are.
No, he's proud of it.
They'll give you a hard time.
He's proud of it. David West has him a special bowl when he comes over to eat for Dumplings. He's got a bowl. Looks like Jethro Bodine's bowl. Everybody else gets a small bowl.
That's funny. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but they all wanted to tell you hi, and how much they enjoyed getting to meet you.
Some of that banana pudding?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Box it up and send it right over.
I wished you was here, buddy. I wished you was here. We loved having you, and looking forward to when you're back over here sometime soon. But I do want you to get by the station here and see Ron and meet Ron. And Ron does it the right way. Ron owns several stations, and he's our kind of people, Rodney.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, he is.
That's encouraging to know. Keep up the good work. Keep on pushing, man.
Thank you, Rodney. Appreciate you spending time with us here today. I really I've enjoyed stories. I sincerely would like to meet you and hope to get you on the program when you're in town next time.
I'd love to do that, and I look forward to it. And I want y'all to tell David I said hey, okay?
He's actually having a procedure done this morning, something minor, but we're going to do that. David, thanks a world of you. And again, those guys counted it an honor to get to play with you. I mean, Rick had played with Bill Monroe. I mean, all the big names. Yeah. He said it was such an honor getting to play with you.
It was fun. We had a really good time sitting around there, and that's the way music started out. It was just a family gathering, and of course it's turned into a whole different thing, but that's good too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Rodney, thank you very much for being with us today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and like I said, we look forward to seeing you when you're here. Is it April, you think, Sam?
It's coming April, the first Saturday of April. I know you'll be here for the Union County Opry show. Mayberry comes to Maynardville, I think is what they're going to tell it, but it'll be Rodney.
We'll have some fun. I'll have some new stuff and new stories for you.
Oh, very good.
Stay in touch with me, buddy.
All right, sure. Well, thank you guys very much, and God bless you.
Tell Beverly we said hi.
Oh, I will.
All right. Thank you, Rodney. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I was listening to him talk, and I watched last night, and the night before, I had DVR'd the Garth Brooks biography, The Road I'm On.
Yeah.
And there are so many similarities into what he's talking about and what Garth's talking about on that show, the humility and listening to other people to get better as you instead of it being about you. It's all, So I'm sitting there listening to that and hearing the similarities of the way that they become successful, as opposed to being this, look at me.
Yep.
It's always, or it sounds from the way he's talking, and again in that special, I'm always thinking about the audience, what
right.
Well,
I was at a
humility is the word I'm looking
humility. I'll tell you. I'll give you a real quick thing that I use, and it's my model message. I'm gonna put it in a book form someday. It's just a small book. It's called Simple Reads, but it's for life. The dash in between the date you're born and the date you die, and I use DASH for it. And I use discipline, accountability, structure, and humility. And I used to go anytime Zig Ziglar was around. I've always loved to hear Zig Ziglar speak. He was a Christian, did Christian speaking as well.
Positive.
But he made a statement one time I thought was so accurate. It's because so many of us, and me and you was about the same age, but our guy.
You're 35 too?
I'm 35. I'm 34.
Okay.
But we are so driven to be successful, and I've been a total flop at it at times, and my arrogance and stuff like that. But Zig Ziglar made a statement one time. He said, "You want to be successful? Help other people be successful."
Yep.
In other words, give people credit and let them help them.
Yeah,
Lord will take care of you.
I agree.
And so I think that I know you do that. I know you do that, and you've done the things the right way. But
it's truth. I don't always do that. None of us always do what we're supposed to do. But in general, I agree with that. I look at some of these people. Rodney, he's sitting here talking. He's not name dropping. He's talking.
Sure.
Telling us about these. Elton John, for crying out loud. I mean, he sold out Thompson Bowling in a matter of 4 minutes.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I had them, I sat there when we got them in September. My wife and I picked up Maggie Peterson. I was doing an event over in North Carolina, and so I got stuck in the mountain. They had a slide, and I was on my way to the airport, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to get there in time. Lord made a way. We got there. We sat for an hour and a half, sit dead still there coming across the mountain. So anyway, we get there, and we have Maggie Peterson in our car. I looked at my wife and I said, "You realize we have Charlene Darling in the back of our car?" And then the next morning, I've got Maggie Peterson, Charlene, and Rodney Dillard in my vehicle. And Beverly, Rodney's wife, who is a sweetheart, she was on Hee Haw. We didn't even get to talk to her, but she was on Hee Haw, and Jim Stafford, she was the staff on that. Jim Stafford show, which is one of my favorites. But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Lord, how do we come to this point where I'm sitting here with one of the Darlings and Charlene Darling in my car? But I would talk to them, and it just conversation, they weren't
like
bragging.
David, David's been around a lot.
David's exactly that way,
and he is. But they impressed him greatly. They made a great impression on David. He's talking about it when the next week after he did that.
We had a good crowd, and the thing I thought. I sat there and I watched, and I've got some great pictures and some video. I've got to get those to David because David was so good about helping us. David fed them, and David helps so many people. David's one of my heroes. I mean, I really do appreciate David and letting me sit in today for him. But the thing I noticed about them was how Maggie, especially when she got done, she came off the stage. I watched her walk down those steps. This lady will be 80 in January. She came down the steps, went straight to that table. I gave her a bottle of water. She sat there and she signed. She had her little pocket full of Sharpies, and she signed pictures. She signed autographs. She took pictures with every single one. And Rodney's sitting right there beside her doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's the way, because you're like me. You've gotten to meet a lot of people. And I don't want to tell you some of the names of somebody that I've met that I was real disappointed in. But, But I've always appreciated those stars that I've got to meet, that because I'm not a star, and I get to meet a star, and they treat you like, you're just him.
I've experienced the same thing. There have been people that have been tremendous that and I'll tell you what, usually the bigger the star, the nicer they are.
They say that the bigger they are, the nicer they are. And
well, I can tell you, like Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Really?
Oh, what a tremendous. And I've told the story, my audience has heard it. You may or may not have. When I first started courting Beth, she came to a station event with somebody else for my station, WATO. That's how I met her. And so she knew I was in radio. And so we were talking one night out at dinner. I said, I'm in radio. And so if there's anybody you want to meet,
do you use your radio voice?
Oh yeah. Anybody you want to meet, you just let me know. And she said, "Oh, do you know who I would love to meet?" I said, "Who?" She said, "Kenny Rogers." I said, "Done."
Oh, no.
That was 22 years ago. It took me, I think, 19 years. I try every time he'd be in town. I'd try her. One time we set up to meet him at the Academy of Country Music Awards, the ACM Awards in Vegas. And that's when he had his twins. His wife went into labor, so he didn't come, and it just never happened. So finally, he was coming to the Tennessee Theater, and I got an opportunity to take her and meet him. And I didn't know, but he was she was just crazy beside herself. He was so fun and nice, and he enjoyed that she and I enjoyed getting to know him. And they take time and talk to you. And like I said, those iconic big figures that you're worried that because of that huge amount of fame are going to brush you off. It just seems like all of those, any of those I've had the opportunity to meet have always been. Yeah, and I think that's a similarity, not on accident.
Yeah. I've only had one that I won't even say his name because you probably play a lot of his music, but I've only had one that really I had a hard time with, and it's probably my fault because I asked him if his wife, who's also a celebrity, I said, "Did she come to kids?" And he's like, "No." He wouldn't even let me. Of course, I was doing Barney, and he didn't care for it. But George Jones, of course, was my hero. The two, I wished I could have met Andy. I never got to meet Andy, but Don Knotts and George Jones was the two people. George Jones is just, and I got to meet him. And he came in, and I thought, please don't be a jerk. Please don't be a jerk. He was as nice and as humble as he could be to me.
I had the opportunity to meet him when he played Knoxville, his last concert right here in Knoxville. Sad. And I had the opportunity to go, and I can't remember why. For some reason, I didn't go. And I remember Jack called me afterwards, and he said, "I wish you'd been here." He said, "I'm not wishing any ill will on anybody, but he said, I don't think he's going to be doing this much longer, Ron." And he got sick. He didn't do another show. That was it. We lost him after that.
I think it was 2007 when I met him, and he was still pretty strong. But those last few years, I know he had to do it, I guess. But I tell you something. His wife Nancy is an absolute angel. She is a sweetheart. She is a sweetheart. She when I met him and I took pictures of her, she didn't have any makeup on. She'd been shopping all day, and she said, "Honey, you don't mind pictures?" I said, "I do," and I got it, and I took it back to her later at another event and had her autograph for me. She goes, "You don't mind." She was the best thing. The Lord sent her to him and saved his life. And and I don't want to take up too much time if you need to go on, but I've got
fine and dandy, brother. I'm used to David. I have to reel him in.
I can rattle on, but I tell you the thing I was thinking about, going back to Rodney and those folks like that, they knew a lot of people. They've been blessed, but I love it how he's turned that around to a ministry now. And we're going to try to. In fact, there was a church pretty close. They're in Anderson County that we couldn't get it worked out. But I'm going to have Rodney and Beverly possibly at their church, maybe sometime this year. Okay. But I'll get all that stuff to you and make sure that people knows about it.
I appreciate you coming in for Dave today.
Absolutely. We've got.
What do you got coming up, going on?
In the area here, I've got. I'm trying to think here. I've got some stuff over in North Carolina here in January, and I'm trying to think here. I've got some. Probably some
you ought to make a list.
So, well, I used to put it on my website, and there's a reason I don't. We had a schedule, and I had some people showing up that it's a long story. We used to put our schedule on our list, and I started having some people showing up that thought they were more of the show than they should be. And I was like, "You're not in the show today." But no, but I tell you what we need to do, and we're going to have to nail this down.
Yeah.
And Phil Ledbetter, I've got to call in for Phil. He called me, and in fact, he just went 2 days ago, I think, to get his PET scan.
Okay.
And I'm praying everything's okay. I think he's still doing okay. But we're wanting to put some kind of a show together.
Sure.
And I'm not sure exactly what, but I'd love to do it in Anderson County somewhere, maybe either at the Ridge, Anderson County High School, something. But I'd love to work with you on it.
Sure.
And try to do something, maybe something along the lines of a Barney and Bluegrass, some type of a Mayberry musical festival, and
Yeah,
but we'd love to do that.
I'm all in.
Yeah, and I want to thank again Pilot Corporation and Madison Insurance Group. I hate to give these plugs, but
that's fine.
Madison Insurance Group has played a big part in helping us, and they supported
Wild Bill.
Bill's a man, but we. They helped us bring in Maggie Peterson and Rodney, and we are going to look at seeing if we can bring them back to East Tennessee again. People needs to go out and see them, meet them, and just to really see how genuinely sincere they are.
It's great. When next time they're here, we'll make sure we get the word out.
And thanks to David again for letting me sit in for him, and y'all pray for him. I think his appointment was it's about now, so we want to be sure and pray for David. And
I didn't know he had a trigger finger situation.
Well, I don't know if he wanted.
He probably shouldn't have told
I've got one. I've got one too, and he told me it's going to lock up on me if I didn't get it fixed. And I said I don't like shots, so I lose that. I'm like Barney. If I lose that finger right there, I'm out of business. That's my trigger finger. What Barney said. But,
man. Like I said, appreciate you coming in. I'll tell you a quick story you can share with Bill. The house where Bill lives now, my neighbor, we're separated by a little, I live on the river, and then there's a little inlet that comes in, and that between my house and Bill's house. It's I don't know, 12 feet wide, I guess, maybe a foot deep. I don't know. But anyway, the neighbor that used to live there, she would get real frustrated with us because, like, for instance, for Trey's birthday when he turned 12.
Gosh, he's 12?
Yeah, he's 13 now. Yeah, in 8th grade. It's crazy. But Beth bought me this big outdoor theater, like a 20-foot screen, and we hooked that. I've got surround sound around the pool. So I hook it to my surround sound, and they were watching Star Wars. You know, pew, blah, blah. And so it's your kids in the pool and Star Wars on. I mean, it's like great birthday party. Well, she got mad because we was too loud. And so over and over, my kids fighting and going on and on and on. So she would fuss at me. She would call me and turn that down. Well, anyway, so Bill called me one day and he goes, I'm going to be your new neighbor. I said, well, there's something you need to know. He goes, I've already heard about it. You have loud kids. I said, oh, yeah. I said, we're loud. And he said, the only thing you have to worry about if you guys are over there partying is me coming over and joining you.
That's
he
good.
said, don't ever worry about being too loud.
That's good. That's good.
I appreciate that. I told my kids, I said, we don't have to worry no more. You can be as rowdy as you want to be. Just if Bill comes over, include him.
That's the kind of neighbors you want. I'll tell you what, this past year, just since June till last month, both neighbors on each side of me has passed away. I told nobody they don't want to move next to me right now. They have. One was a World War II veteran that was a week shy of turning 95.
Oh, wow.
Passed away in July.
You ever met David's uncle?
Oh, yeah. Cecil?
Yeah.
Cecil's amazing. Yeah.
What is he now, 102?
I think so. He's amazing.
He was here last year. David brought him out here last year with his son.
Yeah.
Amazing. He was talking about being a sharpshooter. I mean, I was.
Well, that family's got good genes. You can tell it. I mean,
Faye's working right now as we speak. What, 91?
91 or 92.
Yeah.
And Alma's right behind her, and both of them. And I'm going to tell you something. They make the best soup. And I was taking those officers over there, and I'll tell you a real quick story. We'll get out here. But there was this officer that I took over there one day. I'm not sure if they're listening. They asked me about when I was going to be on here, and I forgot to tell them how to listen. But one of the officers went out. We ate. And he went out and got in his vehicle, and they were picking in there, and he said, I'm going to go out to the vehicle, man. I think he had to go make a phone call or something. We went out there. He was sound asleep. He said, those old ladies put something in that food, because I'm telling you something, they knocked me out. And he went out there.
Just good cooking, brother.
That's it. That's
good cooking.
But thanks to David. Thanks to you, Ron. And again, thanks for Rodney Dillard calling in. And thank you, buddy. I appreciate you and what you're doing here.
Let me know when we want to do Mayberry, or we want to put together a show. I mean, we did those, I think the first ones that we did, and you worked with the folks from Jellicoe.
Yes.
We brought all that in.
Right.
We sold that place out twice in one night.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal. And I think if we can, put it together, whether we do it here, whether we do it Tennessee Theater, wherever. I mean, folks, there's an appetite for it.
Yeah. Well, somebody told me the other day, they said, are you staying as busy? I said, no, I'm not as busy as I used to be for several reasons. I don't want to be as busy on some things. And I said, East Tennessee, I've kind of, I do more outside the East Tennessee area as Barney now. And there's a reason for that. And but he said, most of you people is just dying out, ain't they? And I said, you know what? Mayberry fans are of all ages. And so we still. I was when I was down there in the Atlanta area here last month. I had these were teenagers coming up, and they knew everything about the show.
That's great.
And, so that I want one thing next year. I'm going to be a consultant for somebody that's running for U.S. Senator. I want to get with you too, and maybe bring him by and
great.
Say, meet you as well.
He's going to run for Lamar's seat?
Lamar's seat,
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually been endorsed by Donald Trump and some others. And I don't know if you want me to tell him in the name. Bill Haggerty.
Yeah.
Bill Haggerty. We're going to try to help Bill. We helped Marsha Blackburn last year, was a consultant for them. And I'm probably done with local politics, but the national scene is so important right now, and I'm not politically correct on stuff, so.
Welcome to the club.
Well, if somebody fusses about it, they can just whatever.
They fuss about it. I still am upset that you were security for President Trump or candidate Trump at the time.
Yeah, I've got a picture. I'll tell you what, when he came into the room backstage there, they let me do the opening prayer for him when he was here.
Really?
Yeah, I got to do the opening prayer.
On the stage?
I did. I was on the stage, yeah. I was on the stage before he came out. Yeah, I was backstage with him.
No, I know you was backstage with him. See, they asked, at the time, they had asked Ed was working here, and they'd asked him to moderate or introduce him or something, and some reason he couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like, well, have him ask me. Yeah. I'll introduce him. I wasn't a big enough star.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. Well, he was not assuming at all. When he came into the room, of course, we sat back there waiting for him, and there was just a few people back there, and when they brought him from the airport and he came in that door, in the side door there, of course I was in uniform with the sheriff's office at the time, and so I'm standing back there, and he walks in, and he's just, I mean, he does command the room. Mm-hmm. I'll say that much for him, but he was not arrogant or pompous at all. He came into the room, and the only thing he really said to me was, he said, man, who draws a crowd like this? And I said, apparently you do. Because we had no joke, we had at least 3,000 to 5,000 outside that couldn't get in.
I know. I was there. I was inside.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't remember you saying the prayer. I might have got there after you did that. I don't remember, but
we did it. We did it before, a few minutes before he came out. We had a different thing. In fact, it's I'll tell you who set that up for me. It's Bill's girlfriend.
Really?
Yes, Bill Arrowwood's girlfriend, and she's the one. She helped a lot of. She's very. Does a great job promoting and helping, and she's the one that booked me for 11 years on the Tennessee Theater. We did our show. We retired from it last December with Bill Snyder. That show we did once a month there. But episode scheduled out.
I was at that event. Me and Phil and a little gal that worked here named Haley. We all met and went over there, and Jack and his dad met us over there. Jack and Mike. So our little radio group was all over there together.
I'm going to show you the picture. You've seen the picture probably.
I've got the picture of you and him. I got the picture of you and him on my phone.
Yeah,
I show people and go, I know that guy. You know the president? No, I know Sammy.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's, the thing about Bill, he's been endorsed by President Trump, and I don't want to say it, but we'll have him here, President Trump, in East Tennessee sometime next year. And I don't want to say that and not be able to,
Well, Donald Jr. owes me a visit.
Does he?
Yep. They call. Never forget this. And I thought, what in the world? It was a Sunday, and Phil calls me, and he said, "Hey, I just got a call from a publicist. They're getting ready to call you." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "They want to know if we'd like to talk to any of the Trump family on the radio." I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "I told them yes, but they might need to consult you." Anyway, so get this call, and they said, "Hey, would you like to have any of the Trump family?" I said, "Well, who can we have?" They said, "You can have any of them." I said, "Okay, all. What if we want? Can we have all?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "How long?" They said, "As long as you want to talk."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we interviewed Eric and Donald Jr. I don't know why we didn't interview. I don't remember why. If there was I don't know. Anyway, so we're sitting there talking, and he's talking about outdoors, and he likes outdoors, and I'm talking. He's familiar with Norris Lakes, never been there, but he's familiar with it. And I said, "Well, you'll have to come sometime. I'll take you fishing." He said, "When we win, I'll come and we'll go fishing." I said, "You know you're live on the radio right now, and I'm taping this." So he owes us a trip. I don't know.
Hold that over, man.
I will at some point. But yeah, that's great. I look forward to it. I told it when candidate Trump was here before. I left that night and I went home, and was watching the news. And when I saw what the news was reporting, I told my wife, he's going to win. She goes, what do you mean? Because they reported more than 10,000 people showed up tonight in Knoxville, Tennessee to see Donald Trump, mostly middle-aged white men. But you were there. It was.
Exactly.
I mean, it was
diverse as it could be.
It was as diverse as we are here in Knoxville. And so, and I remember I told Beth, I said, I had a group of college kids behind me, and I said they were getting on my nerves because I couldn't hear because they were all screaming, Trump train,
Yeah.
And then I had people on walkers, that were there.
Yeah.
There were white people, black people, men, women. It was just, in fact, I took pictures. I was showing them to staff. I was like, look at that. Just look at the diversity that came out.
Yeah.
It might have been his celebrity or whatever that brought him out, but the fact that they basically said they were a bunch of old white rednecks.
Yeah, very biased.
I knew right then something there. I knew right then that the stuff he had been saying had some credibility anyway, because he'd been saying it all along.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could talk politics all day long and still not get nowhere.
I appreciate you taking time with me this morning.
Oh, I love it, man. Anytime. Just, we don't have to get David operated on for you to be here. You just come anytime you want to.
I'll come, but I hope David's doing well. We'll check on him here this afternoon, and hopefully he'll be back here.
Send me a text or something. Let me know he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to check on him here in just a minute. Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or problem, call in tomorrow and ask your neighbor. Or email from our website. It's Ask Your Neighbor. Thanks for listening.